Moving to Spain was one of the best decisions I ever made. Today we're going to learn about what made it possible, their North American Language and Culture Assistance Program. So hey y'all, my name is Jared and I've been living here in Mallorca for about 3 months as an English teaching assistant as part of Spain's NALCAP program. I've only been here for a short time, but it's honestly been one of the best experiences of my entire life and I cannot recommend this program enough. Today we're going to go over 5 things. First, the program details and requirements. Second, what you actually do day to day. Third, my personal experience while I've been here. Fourth, whether or not I think this might be a good fit for you. And fifth, some of the details about how you actually apply. Let's dive in. Okay, let's start by talking about the program details. So if you're not in Madrid, you'll be teaching 11 hours a week plus 1 hour of coordination for a total of 12 hours a week, and you'll be paid 700 euros per month. If you're in Madrid, it's a little bit more, both in terms of how much money you make and the hours. So you'll teach 15 hours a week plus 1 hour of coordination, and you'll be paid 1,000 euros a month. I've found that that is enough to cover your basic rent, food, and living expenses, and even some budget travel depending on the region that you're placed. Obviously, not all regions have the exact same cost of living, but I'll put some prices up so that you can compare. In terms of age ranges, you could be teaching all ages, anywhere from kindergarten all the way up to adult. I personally am teaching in range of elementary, middle, and high school, but it really depends on the school that you're matched in. The other thing to note, not all regions have the same history of paying assistants on time, and so certain regions are notorious for paying their assistants late, so again, something that I would look into. What do you actually do? You are spending all of your time in the classroom actually helping your students to learn and improve their English. And that can be anything from helping the teachers with an existing activity that they've planned to developing your own exercises based on the unit of study. These could be writing exercises, listening exercises, or just games that you come up with yourself. And there's a lot of great Facebook groups of other assistants and auxiliars where you can work together to share lesson plans and coordinate together. The other thing that you'll spend time on is the big holidays in the United States, things like Thanksgiving or Halloween that might not be celebrated as much here in Spain. And you use the time in the classroom to share that cultural experience and that cultural immersion. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about my experience. As I said at the start of the video, moving to Mallorca and doing this program has been one of the best decisions that I ever made, and I cannot recommend this program enough. But let's talk a little bit more specifically about some of the pros and cons. With the pros, there's 6 things that I'd like to cover. First is just my school and the teachers have made me feel really welcome and at home from the very beginning, and I think that's something that you're likely to experience on average no matter where you're placed. Second is just the energy of the kids. So no matter what's going on when you show up to school, there's kids running around, they're happy, they just seem so excited to be there and so excited to see you every day. Just being around that much energy and zest for life makes this program super fun and super exciting and special. Third is the free time. So I'm only working 12 hours a week. Generally, that's consolidated to 3 days. So I have a 4-day weekend every weekend, and that just gives me so much time to go on hikes, travel, just explore Mallorca, or to pursue hobbies or creative interests, or just to sleep and watch Netflix. Things that I wanted to do back in the United States that I kind of had a hard time finding the time to do because I was working a full-time job. So the free time that you have is just amazing. It's so lovely and a huge benefit of this program. Number 4 is just the general culture and the vibe here in Mallorca. So I found it to be very relaxed, very welcoming, very friendly, but a little bit slower paced than I found life to be back in the States. And for me, that's a really good change of pace. It's allowed me to just kind of take a breath and slow down a little bit. So number 5 is just how easy it's been for me to make friends and find a community. And that goes back to my last point about the culture here being very open and friendly. Number 6, and this is specific to Mallorca, but the island is super accessible without a car, and there's so much to do, whether it's hiking, exploring various beaches, exploring the city and the museums. I just feel like there's an endless amount to explore, and that has been one of the highlights for me, is just using a lot of my free time, honestly, to explore and get to know the island of Mallorca, which is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. I think one more pro I have to mention, the joy and the beauty of learning a second language. It makes the smallest interactions so exciting and enjoyable. Just every normal routine thing that you wouldn't even think twice about, going to the grocery store, grabbing a coffee at a cafe. When you're in another place and you have the opportunity to practice your language skills, to recognize when you've learned something, and you can understand the little conversations that are going on around you, has a magnificent ability to transform your day-to-day experience. And it's been such a highlight for me. So let's talk about the cons. There's some specific to the program in general, and then some specific to Mallorca. Let's start with the program in general. I think the first thing to mention is that the amount of structure that you get is really dependent on the teachers that you're assigned to. And in general, I would say the program leans towards less structure. So it's important that you be comfortable with handling some ambiguity and asking questions if you're confused, because I think on average it leans towards a little bit more ambiguous, a little bit more unstructured, especially in terms of like the actual material that you're supposed to be developing each week. And so that's something just to keep in mind. Number 2, you are moving to a different country, and there are things that are going to be a little bit different. Stores are open at hours that are kind of strange, at least for me coming from the United States. It can sometimes take a little bit longer to get appointments, and you have to navigate some bureaucracy at the beginning as you're setting up visas, and that can be somewhat of a painful process. It's just important to be patient and trust that everything will work out. Let's also talk about some cons specific to Mallorca. First, on average, it's a little bit more expensive than other parts of Spain. Second, Spanish or Castilian is not the primary language here. The primary language is Mallorquin, which is a dialect of Catalan. And while that hasn't significantly had an impact on my ability to improve my own Spanish speaking skills, it is something to keep in mind when you're looking at different regions to apply to. Third and last is, well, I've been super lucky with my commute, and I can take a bike to school in about 30 minutes. It is fairly common for assistants to be placed in schools in smaller towns, and that can lead to longer bus commutes, so anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. Again, you're only working maybe 3 or 4 days a week, and only 12 hours, so it's not like you have a long commute on top of a very long week of work, but this is something that is fairly common. So is this program right for you? 3 thoughts or recommendations to think about when you're considering whether or not you might want to apply. First thing I'll mention is how comfortable are you public speaking and being in front of a group? When you're teaching, generally you're the star of the show, and so if being in front of a group of anywhere from 5 to 25 kids makes you super nervous and isn't something that you think you're going to be able to work through, it probably isn't a good fit because that's what you're spending most of your time doing. The second thing I'll mention is how comfortable are you with ambiguity and how flexible are you? Again, not everything is going to go exactly the way that you plan, and you're not going to have maybe always the amount of structure that you want. You'll be more successful on this program if you're comfortable with that ambiguity, if you have a flexible attitude, and if you're able to go with the flow. And the third and final thing that I'll talk about is your Spanish ability. So I would highly recommend at least coming with a basic level of Spanish. It will help you immerse into the community, it will help you make connections and make friends with your teachers and just with the other people that you meet, on top of overall just creating a richer experience for you. So I can't recommend at least speaking some Spanish enough. Okay, so after all that, if you're interested in applying, there's a few things that you should know. First of all, the application for 2022 opens on February 1st, and the earlier that you apply, the better. You have to preference regions, but you can be in pretty much any region in Spain, but because it's first come, first serve, you are more likely to get your top choice regional placement the faster and the quicker that you apply. There's a ton of resources to help you through the application process, which I'll link below, as well as some groups that I would consider joining. There's a Facebook group and a subreddit where you can connect with other people applying to the program and ask questions and get questions answered. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments or things that you're curious about that I didn't get to in this video, feel free to leave a comment or send me a message. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. And best of luck with the application process. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.